Thank you very much. I want to thank all the four presenters for these very interesting papers. So now we have finished with the paper presentation, and the advantage of using pre-recorded videos is that we are in time, which is not always the case in direct presentation. So we are in time, and now as I announced at the beginning of the session, I'm really very pleased to announce the roundtable, which will be animated and led by Mr. Julien Schechter, Swiss scientific and specialist journalist. And as I said before, he's a fidel fan of our event and conference. And I give him the mic to lead this roundtable. So welcome, Julia.
Thank you, Yassine. Welcome, everyone. It's nice to have you all. A few guidelines for this roundtable. As Yassine said, please turn your mic off when you're not speaking, but I would like you to speak, of course, so don't forget to turn it on as well. You might want to turn on your camera right now because it's more fun for the people who are talking to see the people they are talking to, so you can maybe come back online with us. It's more fun like this, and you can participate. You have, of course, many ways to do it. You can just write a question in the chat box, and I will try to get them. But since we are not so many people around, the best is to speak for yourself and just ask for speaking by raising your hand. There's a little feature down if you see on the participants. If you click on participants, then you can raise your hand on and you can try to do it for a while just right now if you want to, just so that you know how to do it. And if you don't manage to do that, just interrupt me, open your mic and do it. I will be glad to let you speak. We're talking about education today, education and training, which is one of the field, maybe it's one of the things I've noticed. We talked last year about the industry, how serious games could be really an industry with earning monies and making careers in serious games. Maybe education is one of the field that I have noticed that serious game makers can make some money out of it, or even a living out of it. It's quite rare still, but it exists. So I want to talk with you today about that thing and what is needed for that to happen. And a few of the papers that we had today are addressing some of these issues. We are glad to have two of the authors with us today. Michael Kickmeyer-Rust is here and Isabella Jedel is here. We have also Yassine Rekik from the committee of the festival of GSGS, and also Vera Bustamente, which is with us too. So hi to everyone. Thank you for being live with us. That is also important for us. But everyone is, of course, welcome to speak in that matter. The first question I want to ask the two authors that are here is, have you seen also the same thing? Is the serious games into education a real industries? Are the serious games in the education the only ones that are really accepted, maybe acknowledged also by education and by the people who work in education? Don't know who wants to speak first, Ms. Jedel, or do you want to go first?
Sure. So I'm more aware of the field of gamification than serious games, but speaking from the gamification field and the research we have there, I think there's a lot of potential that is actually unrealized today. And one of the examples that I can see and that I use in my everyday life is Duolingo, for example, which utilizes gamification in a really clear way, with being able to progress in level, and using this progression in the app to be able to learn languages. And there I think it's also a very big potential for the industry to adapt this to other fields as well. For example, mathematics. is one such approach. And as we heard in the talk before here as well, it offers great potential to be able to adapt the learning experience more to the individual, which I think is both needed and really necessary for students in all ages to be able to learn more and progress in their own tempo.
We'll address this problem of personalized gaming also as well, as you made a good demonstration of it, Michael Kickmeyer. Maybe you want to talk to us of your experience in this industry for education. Is education one of the places that really serious games are recognized for their skills, for the things they can provide to teachers and to classrooms?
Can you hear me? I hope you can hear me. Well, in all my experience, yes. I think serious gaming gamification has already become mainstream. I can tell you about my experiences specifically in Germany. There are very strong initiatives. There is even a standard, DIN standard for serious games, for the quality of serious games. At the moment, me and colleagues in Germany, we are developing a certificate for high quality serious games and perhaps gamification elements. So there's a lot of going on, and interestingly, and basically this is in the very heart of your question, interestingly, there is an enormous interest of gaming studios, of organizations from industry, from business, who are willing to apply serious games. And I can continue telling about all the very aspects where serious games entered really business. A couple of years ago, for example, I was working for one of Austria's biggest automotive companies called Magna, and they were very much interested in using serious games for teaching their employees, specifically in the area of language learning. And they found out, and in studies we could show that it's very, very effective to use such approaches to teach their employees English language. And perhaps the last example I can give you is here in Switzerland, we're working on learning support systems, basically adaptive e-learning systems, here in the canton of St. Gallen. And we try to realize elements of gamification for those systems. And they are acknowledged and very much appreciated by the teachers, by schools. So I think it's mainstream already.
Thank you. If anyone wants to intervene or participate, just raise your hands just physically or open your mic. You will be able to speak with us. One of the other issue that we had in those papers was competition. It was seen as a good thing, as a need to be, and as a gamer, I also need some competition, of course, and you all have experienced that in gaming, in whatever game you play. But it's also seen for as a teacher point of view, or as a pedagogical point of view, sometimes competition is not so well seen. So how do you think that serious game or gamification can handle this need for competition for a good game? If there's no competition, there's no good game. That's my point of view, and you can, of course, disagree. But how do you think that serious game and gamification in the education process can deal with this need for competition, but this also trying not to put students against one another, just not evaluating everything? How can we do that? Who wants to go?
So in gamification, we discussed this a lot. And from my point of view, it's a very clear design question that you have to consider always when introducing competing elements in gamification. So right now we're, for example, working with developing leaderboards in the classroom. And there are two main principles that you need to think about. So the first one is that you don't want to show the bottom players, basically, that you just want to show the top scores, so that none of the children or young adults who are participating in the gamified education feel like they are in the worst part. That's one point. And the other point is being able to change the leaderboard. For example, creating a new leaderboard each week, so that every student is able to be on top of the leaderboard. So these are some discussions that we've had at InsertCoin, and also that are being discussed in the literature. So always trying to focus on make winners, having competition, but then not displaying the losing side of competition, I would say.
Which is quite hard. We've seen that. Natalia Lara wants to speak with us. Natalia, you have the mic.
Hi, I want to share my experience with Smile and Learn and teachers in that area, because we introduce smileys that are like coins, and we have a problem that teachers tell us that each student go to the profile to other students and they waste that smileys, and that was a problem in the lessons. So we have to change all the model in gamification of the platform, and we do a competition with yourself just to improve the student, but not with other students. So I don't know if that helped you to understand better how to change the competition, but that was a problem here in Spain when we tried to introduce competition between students.
And we're glad to have you with us. I haven't seen you before. It's nice to have 3 authors today because you did the first one, of course, Natalia, Nieto, Marquez. Vera, I think you were asking for the mic.
Yes.
You have it.
Hi, thank you. Thank you very much for all these really interesting papers you presented. About competition, I just add a thing, because I am on the field of hospital. I'm not in gamification or serious game creation, but as a user of these kind of tools, it's very important for me, this question of competition, that you can create lots of problems in teams if you use too much competitive qualities of serious gaming. Because these people will work together the whole year, so you can't be too aggressive with this part of the gamification thing.
Thank you, Vera. Yassine, you are next. Can we play serious games without competition?
I have 2 small comments. The first one is that if we want to compare against something, we have to compare against the reality. And in reality, even in the classic classroom, we have a little bit competition. When someone give a good answer, we encourage him. It's a kind of competition because he is the best or there is a good student. We have also grades in education. So let's say we cannot be so idealistic. We need some amount of competition. It is real life. So if we have this good amount of competition in the games also, I think it's not bad. The second idea is that we have to remember that in game we don't have only one mode of gaming. We have to consider that in serious gaming we can have competitive mode, but we can also build cooperative mode, group-based mode. We can also not compete against each other, but against virtual competitor or computers, and this will have the opposite effect, to solidify, to make more cohesion in the classroom, etc. So there is a lot of let's say a lot of mechanism that can reconciliate between this competition we need in the game and the pedagogical aspect and the social aspect in a classroom. This is my two short comments. Thanks.
And also empathy. We have Sylvain Cardin asking for the mic.
Hello. I hope you can hear me properly. Thanks, Yassine, because I wanted to react a bit on this, as like you mentioned, like real life study, or like when you are in a class, it's already like a form of gamification. And I was wondering what is, because we speak about gamification as like making a video game that is give some form of entertainment as well as like passing the information that you have to learn. But I was wondering, what do you think? Because like if we are in real life in the classroom, we have a grade of all the students. It depends on the university, but when I was a student, we have a grade of everybody. You can see your different strength and weakness, because in each topic so you have a different grade. We have also group, we have workshop that we have to do, or project that we have to do in a group. So we have also this collaborative thing. So do you really think because there's always like for me the main issue is like the time it takes to get like to a level which is acceptable to make like the game graphics, and especially the main issue is interaction, to be able to implement all the possibilities that a user can explore, compared to just apply some gamification rules which are mostly in place because like you win the game by having enough grade to pass to the next years. It's basically how we work in the university. But what was like numeric tools, like those like games, like learning games brings to the field compared to the amount of work you have to put to make the game itself. So I don't know if it's may not be the clearest question, but like, yeah, what is the tipping point between like spending time to make this game compared to the benefits of making the game itself?
Okay, so it's a quite very specific question on how effective the game can be, if I understood you.
Yeah, it's what the efficiency compared to like, because you can apply gamifying rule in the real world, and what's the benefit of like making this video game like content to apply this gamification?
I think I will just let Michael Kickmayer answer on the competition level, and then we can address this question because it's one of the ones I wanted to address. But just before, let's end the competition topic. Michael, I would let you the mic, and then I will come back to Sylvain Cardin's question.
Thanks.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I fundamentally agree with some guys said before me. It's a matter of intensity, aggressiveness of how are you going to present competition. In my experience, even in schools, even for younger children, a certain amount of competition is okay, is accepted, and yeah, you need to find the right way, the right amount of competition. On the other hand, if you think about single player games, then basically what you're doing is you're competing with yourself, and also this is, I think, a promising way to present competition, to introduce competition to a gamified system. A game is fostering the competition with yourself, displaying your personal progress towards a learning game, a serious goal, if you like. Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Michael. I think we can move on to the other subject, because in Fantin Reicher's paper, we have seen that they renounced one of the things they wanted to do, this escape room, because it was too costful, it was too expensive in time and money. And we have this question from Sylvain Cardin: how much can you put in the game towards the advantage that you will gain from it if you have to build a game in 5 years just to have a 3-month maybe a program that you could learn? Maybe it's too much work to do so. So maybe we can address this question with your paper as well, Michael, the need for evolution or the need of the lifetime of a game. Have you, first question maybe for everyone, have you seen already an educational game, a serious game with a long lifespan, with a lot of adaptations, that ones that maybe was used for 5 years, 3 years, 5 years? I've never seen one. I've seen many serious games in education, but they have a short lifespan. They are outdated, they're not updated, they're not built for variation, or they were not built to be personalized for students. What is your experience? Have you seen long lifetime or lifespan of a serious game? Because that could also answer Sylvain Cardin's question, is it worth it? Yes, Yassine.
Thanks, Julien. I will rapidly answer your question about did I see one game used for more than 5 years? The answer is no, definitively. Until now, I didn't see such a game. But I will try to answer more globally the question, and I am a little bit optimistic. Why? Because in each field, this is always the case. At the beginning, it's a question of scale. At the beginning, you build prototypes, new ideas in small scale. So of course, the efficiency is not good, because the return over investment in terms of number of students enjoying this one game or whatever is not enough. But as I said, we are at the beginning of a big new fields. And it's like e-learning. At the beginning, at the 18th, when I worked on e-learning platform, etc., it was the same question. It was, yeah, it costs a lot. People are not used to it. We need to adapt it every time, etc. But now the question is not yet d'actualité, let's say. So it is admitted that we need that blended learning, etc. And think this
we had
new
COVID in the
yeah, and we have COVID to oblige us to use it. It will be the same case with games and serious gaming. First, we have to convince people that it's a good way if it is good use. And then now, for example, in my experience, I have many collaboration with School of Applied Science in Pedagogy, the Minister of Education in Geneva, etc., which are starting building more large scales initiatives. And in this case, the investment will be good, because we will develop something which is generic, which is globally used, and which will have funding for maintenance, evolution, etc. So to conclude, my opinion is now it can be difficult to build something, because mainly we have personal initiatives. But when it will become something, I don't know how I don't know the term, institutionnalisé. I mean, it will be
industrialized, used everywhere.
Yeah, used everywhere and pushed by the administration and by the politicians and by the decision maker, etc. It will be okay. This is my opinion.
And many of us hope so, I guess, around this table. Michael, you were asking for the mic again.
Oh yeah, I do know a couple of examples, but what I actually want to contribute to this conversation is there are, in my opinion, two very good role models for very, very long-lasting serious games, and that is Microsoft's Minecraft and Second Life. So basically sandbox environments, virtual environments. And there is a lot of activity using these sandbox environments by teachers. There's plenty of examples how teachers are using those approaches in their classes. And I think flexibility is the key. If you're after developing a very enduring, pervasive, long-lasting serious game. Perhaps just a scenario in Minecraft or in Second Life.
Yeah, this is a good one to notice. Anyone else on this subject of the lifespan of the lasting of an educational game? I don't see any hands, virtual hands, or you can do physical like this when you turn your camera on, or you can do the virtual one by just hitting the participant button, and then you have raise hand, which you can use. Okay, let's move on. You've talked about, Michael, in your paper about personalization, about scaling the game to the needs of the students. I'll have a question, because we're not equal facing games. Maybe one of you guys is a really good Tetris player and another one is a good word game player. How can you do in a classroom to put in a game that anyone can play? It's quite hard. It's the same for competition that we have before. You have to find something that everyone can do, but then it has to be fun. It has to be a challenge. How can you manage to find the fine-tuning between students and quality of those students? Natalia wants to speak about that.
Yeah, well, I think that it depends of what you understand by personalization, but in Smile and Learn, we have a project right now with the European Commission to adapt all the games, and we thought about changing the type of the letter, the size of the letter of different games, also that the children can interact with the screen just talking if they are not able to write. So there are some things that you can personalize, not just only in the game with the technology that you can use to play the game. So I'm not sure if it's what you're talking, but yeah, that could be a way of personalization of different games.
Making it inclusive is also one of the questions in education. Most of the European countries and even USA is going towards a more inclusive school with special students or special needs that are taken care of in the classroom. So of course, this is one of the issue, of course, of building serious games. I was more thinking about how do you do with the levels, the difficulty level of a game, because it's hard to set one that everyone can reach or not. Isabella.
I think it's a question about starting very easy in the first steps of the games, and then having a progress slope that each person can reach on their own. Because one thing in games that is really great and that we sometimes miss in education is the opportunity to be able to try again. Like if you're doing a challenge and then you don't succeed with it in a game, for example, you die, then you just get to the starting point again, and then you have the opportunity to try again. So I think it's about adapting the difficulty, understanding the user group, but then also providing opportunities for students to be able to actually do the challenge and learn.
Try and fail, but is there not the risk? I will address this fun matter afterwards, but there's maybe the risk of being boring if it's not challenged enough in the first time. But first of it, Yassine.
I'm sorry, Julien, I want to come back to your question, and I have forget to say something about it, about this question of investment and long life, use duration, etc. I want to mention another idea, which is the cost also of the games will change in time. Because if I come back to my analogy with e-learning and mobile learning systems, at the beginning it costs a lot and a lot, because again it's a question of we are discovering the domain, we are proposing new ideas, etc. But after some years we get what we call the classic tools, tools which involves functions and services appreciated and adopted and used by a lot of people. And this is why now, if we use any e-learning environment, you will find 20 main functions which are available for free, for nothing, because it becomes a kind of de facto standards to have them in any educational environment. I think in the game domain also, we will with time get what we call success patterns and success stories, some scenarios, some mechanisms, some type of games which will become success stories or example of best practices, etc. And these things, we will get them for free. Don't forget also that now we have a game engine, and we have it's very easy to develop a game now compared to the 80s and the 90s. So it will be the same things. Of course, it always will have a cost to pay, but I think that the cost will be reduced, and we will have a lot of things for free. And at this time, every teacher, it will depend only on the imagination and motivation and passion of the tutor and the teacher, I think.
Or maybe also with information and training, as Natalia said on her paper. Michael, I just want to hear you about personalization, because you talked about it in your paper. Is it really one of the key that you can personalize the game to what grade? Is it to a class, to the level of one class, or is it to the level of each student or each country? What scale do you see in personalization?
Well, first of all, perhaps my answer to your original question, can you find the right game for everyone? And unfortunately, my answer is no, you can't, but you know, that's life. You need to learn to live with that. On the other hand, I think one of the best ways to make games as interesting as possible for an as large as possible group of learners is personalization. And there's a long tradition and history of research in that field, and there are solutions available. And I think the difficult thing is to inform game studios, game developers, that this technology exists and how they could use it. There have been initiatives to try to do exactly that. I could mention the large European RAGE project. Maybe you can Google it for those of you who are interested in. It's rage-project.org or .eu, I think. Anyway, the idea of that project was really to have academic partners from academia developing all sorts of fancy adaptation mechanisms, just that one I presented, for example, and to provide that more or less for free to the game development community. And I think that, again, is a process that takes time, that needs awareness. And I think the aspect that academia needs to support the gaming industry to make that step. And what I mean is the gaming industry, not the serious gaming industry. So I think what we can do and should do if we want to promote serious games is to convince the gaming studios that there is a payoff in serious games, that it's possible for even smaller game studios to develop serious games, and that it might be a very interesting niche in their business. And I think in the end, it's this collaboration between academia and business, the gaming studios. We need to push in the end.
Thank you, Michael. One of the other issues that I had in my first sentence and the topic of this roundtable was the fun of the game, and it's also one of the questions you addressed in those papers, and Fortin did, Isabella did as well. How fun must they be? Because it's still sometimes school, and school is there to learn. And how fun can you build your game, or will the fun be the only thing the students will get from it and not the education? How fun should serious game be? Serious is, of course, the opposite of fun, and it's one of the problems we addressed last year. One of the problem of many serious games I've seen is they forget to be games, they forget to be fun, they forget to be playful, and because they want to be serious and they want to bring education. But the thing is, how do you find, and this might also answer one of the questions we had earlier, how fun should they be? Should you laugh in class with the game? Yassine?
I'm sorry, Julien, because I'm always late in my answers because I raised hand to give a compliment idea about your previous question about investment, and I wanted just to add something, but I will come back to the second question. But let me just add small things about the investments and the cost. We are now talking a lot about learning and education in the classic way in schools and for children, etc. Don't forget that we have also a big topic, which is long life training, and we are moving into that. Technologies are moving more faster than previously. The world is evolving more rapidly, and more we need self-training, continuous training, long life training. It's a must now. We cannot stay 5 years without training ourselves, or we become obsolete. So for such kind of situation, the serious gaming and the interactive tools and gamified simulations, etc., can be a very effective way and can be supported by the industry and by the administration, etc. And in this case, the cost is not bigger or less than a classical way of making this training, because now if you see I don't know, but in computer science, some training days cost $2,000 or $3,000 for 1 day of training. So if you build a serious game or a simulation or a role-playing game that can teach you some skills and some human skills, etc., it can be effective. And now I come back to your second question about the fun, and I will just give you a small joke about it, or let's say anecdote about that. I am now currently working with the Geneva hospitals, and we are developing some serious games to enhance human skills in the hospitals, to enhance communication between the different people in hospital, between practitioners, technical staff, etc., and to enhance leadership, organization, etc. And it is based on a kind of quests, it means puzzles to solve, etc. And the anecdote is that the people who are working with me said that in each experience they perform with people, all people focus on the game and forget the patients and the people who are ill, and at the end they succeed to resolve the puzzles, but they forget the patients, etc. So I agree with you that in this context of learning and training, we have also, like competition, we have to find the right tuning between the serious aspects of learning and teaching, and sometimes it must be boring because life is boring sometimes, this is real life, and this attractiveness and this fun aspect of the game, just to maintain the midterm and the long-term motivation. And this is the best, the key aspects of game is not to replace current methodology and pedagogy, etc. In my opinion, the key aspects of using game is to maintain this motivation and to encourage people to go and train themselves or teach themselves and learn new things by themselves, by their own initiative. And this cannot be done with other things than game, I think, or at least game, it's a good way to do it.
To attract people.
Yeah.
I just had a message from Michael Kickmayer. He says goodbye to everyone. He had to go a few minutes before this roundtable is over.
Thank you, Michael.
We have something more like 5 to 10 minutes. Natalia, I want to hear you about this topic of fun, because you've in your paper you've studied 20 games. How fun were they? Did you see this problem in those games? They're the most played ones. So are they the most fun ones?
Well, what I have to say that 20 games have in common that they were cooperative, so children can work together, and they were not the typical games for learning. It was just chess and games that don't work knowledge from the college, so or the school. So yeah, I think that we need to improve in Smile Learn how to do games more funnier if we need to learn something, because sometimes we don't get that goal of the funniest part of the game when we try to teach children some specific concept. So I think that we need to keep going on that point.
Yeah, there's work to do. Many people have raised their hands. Maybe Arlette first.
Hello, this is Arlette. Let me turn on the video so you can see me. Can you see me?
No, we don't see you right now. Yes.
Hello.
Thank you, Arlette.
I just to quickly introduce myself, I'm actually from the gaming industry, coming from the gaming and doing educational games, just so you know a little bit of my background. And I've been very interested to see and hear what is being talked about in the educational, from the universities and educational side. And I have worked on a game for elementary school, for 4th grade math game. And we have been, the priority, what we have been always working with is we want to make the application fun. And it's very difficult to make it fun because there's a lot of the teachers and other inputs which actually make the application not fun. But for us, the priority is if it's not fun, nobody will use it. And especially kids, not only kids, but also adults, young adults and adults, they want to usually have something fun. The fun has to be higher with the younger the kids are, but the older they are, fun is for them a waste of time. So we actually had to look in what age group are we working in. And sometimes they think, well, a game is not really our work. We want to have efficiency and really provide, just get me what I need to know as fast as possible so I can achieve my goal, because I usually have to do the education from my company. So it's very interesting to see that you see that problem as well. And I would be very interested to really work with the know-how, like what Michael was saying about how to bring using something in gamified tools what you're offering into the actual applications. And cooperation, I think, is very key here.
Thank you, Arlette, for this comment on the industry side. I took one of the example last year when I was talking about fun in serious games. It was a chemical company that wanted to make their employees aware of the dangers of some of the products that we're handling every day. And it was very painful to learn all the products and very boring. So they built a game, but they made it so boring that it was also boring to play the game. And so they didn't achieve anything. They just pushed their list on another platform, but it was not a game. So that's one of the problems.
And it takes a time, I think, for both parties to learn, the students, because they're not used. Suddenly they have a game, and sometimes they don't understand, what am I doing here? Because we worked on I just worked on an IBM game for data centers. So it was a very complex data-driven game, a simulation. So so I saw that part as well as the kids. So there's common grounds, but there's also, we have to look within the age brackets, and I would never forget to target the audience, because when we develop kids games, we usually take the teachers as target audience, which sometimes is tricky. Need to make sure that we know our target is really at the end should be the kid, right, who wants to learn, who needs to learn something, but we have to involve the teachers.
Thank you, Arlette. Of course, Isabella and Sylvain want to talk about this topic as well. So Isabella is maybe testing with the target audience a good thing, or the key maybe.
Yeah, I think it's a really important aspect. And we've seen the same thing as well, working with different target groups and different ages. But what I want to add to the discussion as well is that fun can look very different. You have the playfulness fun, which you can design through colors and like background things, adding surprises. But then you also have the fun that comes from it being motivating, that you think something is challenging and you're able to accomplish it. That's another type of fun, I would say. And finding the balance and including both aspects is very important. In gamification, there are two very big meta-analyses, and there you've also seen that the studies that are successful and that show effects on gamification are those that include both the hedonic aspects, the fun aspect, but also the utilitarian aspect. That the difference between serious games gamification compared to other games is that you want to get something out of it. You want to learn something. So finding the right balance, but also including both parts, I think is very important.
Very interesting, Isabella. Thank you very much. Sylvain?
Yes, thank you. For me, I've seen in many projects, one of the big mistake I've seen is like what we call fun. And as you mentioned, Isabella, is like, it's a very wide topic, because you have, for me, we need to split about what is basically what we call like the discovery aspects of the art. The narrative can be a sense of humor, can be something which is also quite personal. And usually people say, okay, we don't want to make a serious game, want to make it fun. So they spend all time in making the narrative, making the art, making some touch of humor, try to reach the public. This part is super important for discovery. So basically, do you catch on, like, the user will open the app and close it right away because it doesn't matter. But actually, this part is super costly to make, and usually it doesn't really matter after like the people have discovered the content. So it only lasts like the first few times you encounter the system. Basically, it's usually a mistake because people put a lot of effort in this narrative experience, trying to make something massive, and it's basically a lot of effort that you spend that will be consumed in a few hours by the user of the system. But if you want to build like a cost-effective system, you need to more put aside the game, because like even there's a lot of video game making something fun is super dear. We can see in the video game industry, even without like the need of teaching something to the user, just to make people come back is already a huge challenge. But the thing there, what is interesting is like a lot of these successful video games actually are quite boring in itself. And it's not like the main task you perform on the regular basis. So you spend 90% of the time doing something which is not so extra fun. So maybe it was fun at the beginning when we were in this discovery phase, but what makes the game like addictive, and it's basically the challenge. So the most important thing is the challenge. So you get something that keep you in the flow. So you get something that keep you like not too easy, not too hard to not be, and it needs to be harder and harder. So if it's too easy, it needs to be very easy at the beginning and really, really hard if you spend a lot of time. And it's basically something which is missing usually is the reward, what you get out of it. So basically in real, and I think a lot of mistake we are done is like you spend a lot of effort in creating content, in creating shininess. It's super important for discovery, maybe for showcasing what you've done, but for the user itself, a lot of techniques, a gamification technique can be used without the need of a digital media. You can do that in class. Maybe you organize some role-playing games or like some contest or some form of other type of creative type of like how people are ready for example, when you do small project, after they have to do a presentation or maybe they have to put that in practice, and that's actually the reward. And in the digital world, like you can always implement like usually you need to spend more time of like how you give the reward to the user, how you can valorize that, maybe in social, get some little tricks out of it, and we can keep some tasks which are boring in the middle, and especially focus on where your time to produce the content matter. And I agree with Yassine. I think we will come with some maybe there's some framework will emerge to be like globally accepted, and we should focus on small educative games. So focus on specific tasks. So like that, after the whole experience will be a sum of small games in itself. Maybe one day it would be in a huge framework where you can go and you can have these different modules inside. But usually people try to make something huge, and basically it fails because it tries to feed the whole thing and doesn't do the real one thing that is meant to be. And in order to make that productive is just give some reward and design the reward so it appeals to the user. Okay, that was my...
Thank you, Sylvain, for this good point. The rewards are fun in itself, and you can just try with someone. You can flip a coin, choose a side, and you have the reward to win, and it's not something complicated. Yassine, maybe you want to add some short thing on that, and I'll ask last questions to our roundtable.
Thank you, Julien. But in fact, what I wanted to say, I prefer to let it as a conclusion. So go ahead.
Okay, great. And we'll have the conclusion in just 2 or 3 minutes. I have one last question. I think is really needed to close down this roundtable on education and training. And we've mentioned it in papers as well. Do serious games, how they can show effectiveness. It's hard to assess that, but we have some methods because we have to assess every education method. But should they have certifications? And that's one of the points that was presented in the papers. Should they have, like, we have certifications for education in the whole Europe, like the PISA test, for example. Should we have some certification that can make serious games more serious to the educational system? What do you think about that? Should they be certified by a larger panel, maybe European or maybe even the world? But let's start with European standard for serious games to be used in educational systems. Do you think there should be a certification? And it will be my last question before Yassine's conclusion. Who wants to go for that?
I think I'm the only one left, right, of the participants in the
yes,
roundtable. So
we are saluting Laura, who she had to go as well.
Yeah, so I think certification would be a really good idea, both from the perspective of ethics and, as we talked about before, games can be very costly to produce, and like educational institutions will probably have to invest a lot of money and resources into games. So that's one part why I think it would be important. But then it's also important to start measuring effects and knowing like what is effective and what's not effective as well, to be able to move the research forward and get a better understanding for why do some serious games or gamification work and why do others not. Because in the literature today, you can see like very big divisiveness into some people who say that gamification works and other people who say that it does not work because you have both effects. So it's really important for the field to move forward, I think, to establish what is real serious games and what are real gamifications, because that's the ones I believe that really are able to affect behavior and can produce positive results.
Thank you, Isabella. Someone else? Or I will leave the conclusion to Yassine, who has maybe also something on that topic. Thank you, everyone, for participating in this roundtable. I will leave the conclusion to our chairman, Yassine Rekik, and we'll see each other for the ones who want to be with us next week at the same time.
Thank you very much, Gillian. Before concluding, I want to thank all the GSGS committee for the big effort to organize this edition and this first session. The technical people who are managing all that, especially Julien Chen. Thank you also, Julien Schechter, for this nice and rich roundtable, and thank you everybody for attending this session. Thank you for the speaker. My conclusion will be based on two anecdotes. I like very well anecdotes because it's very it's a good learning media. 20 years ago, I was working on e-learning during my PhD studies, and I presented something which I considered as very innovative in a conference. And when I come back after doing my presentation, my professor was sitting close to me, and he told me, you know, Yassine, I am proud of you. You presented something very well, etc. But believe me, what you think so innovative for our children is already even not up to date. It's obsolete already for our children. The second anecdote is 3 years ago, I was thinking about an idea of developing something in the domain of, it's a combination between learning and gaming, etc., on mobile devices, etc. But thinking with my brain of near 50s, I thought it's not feasible. It's not possible. It will not be accepted. So I skipped the idea. But 2 weeks after that, or 3 weeks, I was helping my son with his study, etc. And I saw how he performed and how he communicate with his colleagues and friends, etc. And what I supposed to be not acceptable and very innovative, he was using it every day. So this is to say that, by analogy, I want to conclude with that. Are we allowed now to maintain pedagogical approach and classical approach that was a success with us, with people who are born after in this new century, which start using a tablet and iPhone at the age of 6 months, which are playing all time, etc. Are we allowed to still use only classical way? So it's a question. I don't have the answer. And this is to say that we have a lot of challenge to tackle. We have a lot of standard to build. We have a lot of practice to do. We have many questions to answer, but the only things I'm convinced is that it's worth to do it, because this is the tendency, this is the direction. We cannot return the time machine back. We have to go ahead. We will make mistake. We have, as I said, a lot of things to learn and to enhance and to make better, but we are on the right direction. I think we have to do it. So again, this is my conclusion, and thank you again for all of you for this very nice time we spent together. Thanks again, Julien, and I hope to see all of you in the next sessions, because all the roundtable will be open. There will be for each roundtable some dedicated people invited, but all the roundtable will be open for all people to participate. Thank you again, and see you soon.